What we know is a drop. What we don't know is the ocean.
Hello, and welcome to the Newton Knowledge Podcast. My name is Mark Singer, partner of Newton One Advisors, and I'm joined by our managing partner, Steve Target. The Newton Knowledge Podcast will provide meaningful content to our valued advisor community. Our discussions will deliver unique insights into the people, processes, and products that make our industry so critical. Newton One is a national life insurance planning firm delivering customized solutions structured to help clients and their advisors engaged in solving estate planning, wealth transfer, business succession, and executive benefits challenges. We are a member of the M Financial Group, which grants our clients access to the nation's elite carriers and exclusive products available only through our network.
I could tolerate any insurance seminar. For days, I could sit there and listen to them go on and on with a big smile on my face. I'd say, how can you stand it?
So, Rich Carroll, founder of Maximus Partners, thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Before we jump into some of the questions on what you and your team provide for business owners, just give us an overview of your career and then the founding of Maximus Partners.
Yeah, so I've been in corporate finance before founding Maximus for 25 years. Last 10 as a CFO. A couple different companies. All of the commonality with all of them was they were high growth companies that needed to build out a finance function. And somebody had made a decision that they should invest in the finance function, whether it was a private equity firm that came in and made an acquisition, whether it was a founder who understood the power of finance when you invest in it. Someone recognized that, and in some cases I went in as part of a team, in some cases I went in as the guy, as the CFO.
And Steve, you guys have known each other for how long now?
A couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Well, we're going to start with a softball question before we dive into some of the resources. If your life had a background song to it, what would it be, a theme song?
So, I mean, we're Philadelphia people. It has to be Eye of the Tiger.
Oh, that's a good one.
We haven't had that one before. That's pretty good.
No one said that?
No.
I had to. I was like, somebody had to have said that.
No.
So we're probably going to get in trouble for this for copyright purposes, but I do it every time. If they choose that question and pick a song, I'll just cut a piece of that and we put it in at the end. Oh, absolutely. Right. I may kick it off with that. That's a great one, though. I'm surprised we haven't had it.
Yeah.
Let's start the highest level we can. What should business owners expect from finance today, and how can that be a tool when they're considering the possible sale of their business?
Sure.
Or utilize that tool?
Yeah, I'll focus on privately owned businesses because I think that's where the investment is. It's where it's underinvested right now. Yeah. And so what they should expect is they should expect a team that's strong enough if they were a publicly traded company, which seems pretty extreme, but the idea being a publicly traded company or a private equity-backed company, even so, they've invested in their finance function, they've built out their accounting, they have external reporting requirements, and they need to pull the right levers in order to grow the business. And so they should think of it really through that lens. And then the question I have come from them is, well, I don't have those requirements. Why do I need it? Well, it's not only the requirement side of it, it's optimizing your P&L and making sure that you maximize your growth and you drop the most of the bottom line. And if you do that, you're going to make more money. So look, the goal here is to make more money, to grow the company profitably and to scale.
Yeah, that's important. How important are pristine historical financials, and why do they matter so much?
Yeah, so one of the things I talk to these founders about all the time is there's different ways to maximize your values from a company standpoint. Your company's worth something in the market, and your something is an EBITDA number times a multiple. Determines your enterprise value. And some of them struggle with what EBITDA is for a bunch of different reasons. Maybe they're a smaller company that's been growing and they've never really had reporting requirements, so they don't even really have clean financials. That's where the pristine financials come in.
Yeah.
If they have very clean financials, they're on accrual basis accounting, they have either an audited financial statements or a financial statement review or somebody checking this, and they can produce financials on a monthly basis, they can get more debt. And when you get more debt, it opens up things. So the example that I like to use with a lot of them, because I see it all the time, is there might be a $15, $20 million company that still has a credit facility that's secured against their house or secured against something. That's not the right model because they have a company that's, say, $20 million in revenue. It has assets. Assets can be AR. You can secure your debt against AR. You can do that, though, if you have clean financials and you can go to the banks and make yourself bankable.
Yeah.
Once you're bankable, you can open things up, and it can take all the stress off and allow you to figure out where to make the right investments.
Where do you see your team getting involved size-wise? You said $20 million privately held business. Is there a minimum, or
there's no minimum? Yeah. I think my favorite thing is just to meet a CEO who wants to learn, who understands that there's an education process here, that wants to build a finance function that can scale. I'd say for us, the inflection, the middle of the bell curve for our customers is probably $75 million in revenue. Okay. We have some that go over $1 billion, some that go down to, we have a couple that are startups, but those founders want to invest in the finance function now.
Yeah. What was your education background? Did you train as a CPA?
No, I'm not. I'm not a CPA. I went to Elon. And my major was international business. Yeah. I wanted to be an econ major, this is a lot of economics in terms of supply, demand, and pushing and pulling all the right levers. And so that was where my brain always was. I was not an accountant, no. Yeah. And I fell into it, and I just was good at the FP&A side. So there's different tracks you can go up from a finance perspective. And this is another thing that a lot of the founders don't understand. They think you have to come through the CPA track. But when you think of the umbrella for finance, there's this other world called financial planning and analysis. That's where I grew up. Yeah. It's much more forward-looking, forecasting, budgeting, KPIs, dashboards, pulling the right levers. And that kind of differentiated me when I went out and was a CFO.
Let's stay in that zone there about forecasting.
Yeah.
What does great forecasting look like? What do you see when you're trying to position the company for the future?
Absolutely. So one of the problems with, I'll say the other side, one of the things that we see when we talk about companies not leaning into finance correctly is they're not investing in their budgeting and forecasting process. And they look at it more of a chore instead of a strategic exercise. And a chore meaning like, all right, I need a budget for next year. Let's just say we're going to grow by 10%. Well, that's a chore, and it doesn't add any strategic value. The real discussion is sitting with your leadership team and mapping out what are the right levers we need to pull, how do we hit that 10%, how do we roll forward our current customer base, where do we need new sales to come from, what is that going to do to our margin profile, what is that going to do to our expense profile, and ultimately what is our EBITDA going to look like next year. And if you do all of those things, you know the right levers to pull, and you can now evaluate monthly. I'm a big fan of rolling forecasts, which is a hybrid between a forecast and a budget, where you're consistently updating it, because a budget in a high growth business can be stale. Yeah. It's 12 months old. You're in November and you set it back in December of the previous year. Well, everything's moved on you. But if you have that rolling forecast, which is constantly iterating on the budget and pulling the right levers, all right, now we can invest in that sales guy we wanted to invest in. It doesn't put any stress on our cash flow.
Where is AI participating in your world now?
It depends. So AI, I have kind of a love-hate with AI right now. Because I think it's super powerful and it's so useful when it comes to forecasting, analysis, and everything else, because it can use a lot of the data. But it has to sit on top of good, clean data. The same problem that you have with these growing companies where they haven't invested in their finance function, they haven't invested in their data. So if they're trying to use bad data with AI, it's only going to spit out bad information. And so it's telling them things quickly, but it's the wrong stuff. Oh. So they have to invest in the people and process first before they get to the AI.
One of the things that makes you and your company so great is you've been in the trenches.
Right.
You've been involved in many exits, or more than one.
Right.
I think as we did our research, at least 5 different exits.
Yes. Yeah.
In one sense or another.
Yeah, in one sense or another, exactly.
What separates companies that have had successful exits from those that haven't had as successful an exit? And when we talk about deal execution, give our audience some things to think about between the successful and not so successful, and what really drives that enterprise revenue.
Yeah, one thing that's been really interesting for me as I've come out of, I'll call it industry, into this consulting world, and I've met more people like you and different people around the ecosystem of helping these smaller businesses, is there's a lot of folks that are very focused on exit planning, and it's so important to start planning a few years ahead of time, because they're looking at things more than just finance. They're looking at operations, customer concentration risk, your go-to-market structure. Are you too heavy as a CEO on your sales, where you're selling everything and you don't have anyone else that can sell? Well, that's a red flag. Yeah. And so a lot of those things need to kind of bubble up and come to the forefront, and you need to be able to analyze all those and then figure out how to put the right things in place so that you can have a successful exit. So the companies that have had the most success from an exit standpoint that I've seen have brought people in early, whether it was external people or internal people like myself or other strategic advisors who've been through transactions before and know how to maximize the value of a firm. Because it's twofold. It's maximizing it, and then to your point, Steve, how do you make sure that you can get through a transaction? Yeah. And to get through a transaction is what the buyer needs to see on the front when they're looking at evaluating it is what they need to see through the inspection. Yep. And I call the inspections really due diligence. I like to use housing analogies.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah. Makes total sense.
Because you're selling a house and somebody's like walks through and they're like, I want to make a bid on this house. Right. And then they come to inspections. That's the due diligence period. Yeah. And you want to make sure that they don't find anything through the due diligence period. Yep. The inspection.
One of the places we, of course, participate as insurance brokers, life and disability is, well, let's just name two. One is if there are any key executives at the company providing some insurance, either disability or life insurance, it would indemnify the company should that person not be around anymore. That seems to be a fairly straightforward solution. But the other is for these companies that you really want to keep the key players on board. Mm-hmm. How do you build it? Well, it's a question that, of course, we know the answer to, but we build programs that would offer the company and potentially the company that's buying them out some opportunities to keep those folks on board, because you're buying the business, you're buying Absolutely. The financials, but you're also buying the people in many cases.
That's right.
And if you buy the company, I know that there's contracts and non-competes and you need to stay on for a certain period of time, but if we can sweeten that pot with other deferred comp sort of long-term incentive plans, there's really an opportunity for us. So that's our pitch today. Is tying in the insurance planning, the long-term incentive planning, the key person planning, to all that. One of the things we hear a lot about and talk a lot about is it's better to start early with the planning than later.
Right.
But we've never really gotten to how early. Yeah. Is it 12 months? Is it 24 months? Is it 2 months? Or is that really something that's dependent upon the company itself and how they're structured?
It's dependent on the company, but I think it's really 2 years. Okay. And the example I like to use with CEOs is I draw a little matrix. I love to do whiteboarding sessions with them.
We got a whiteboard. We should.
There we go. We should pull it out. As I like to just say, all right, if you look at this matrix, let's say you have $4 million in EBITDA, but you don't really know what's in there because nothing's consistent. You're still on cash basis accounting. You don't have a financial statement review and audit. You think it's 4. We don't know if it's 4. But let's say we can get it to 5. All right. Well, let's stick with the 4, and let's say your multiple range is 6 to 10x. Let's go extreme. The 4 times the 6 is $24 million in enterprise value because you're at the low end of the range. Your financials are a mess. You probably haven't done any of the exit planning stuff that you need to do. You haven't done anything in terms of like key man transitions or anything related to your management team. So people aren't going to pay the high end of the range. So you're now at 24. If we can focus on getting the right team in there and evaluating everything and prepping for an exit over a 2-year period and cleaning up all the financials and layering in the forward-looking financials with the forecasting and budgeting, fix all the legal stuff, maybe get some trusts in place to help you even retain more on an exit. Let's say we can get that $4 million up to 5, which is not unreasonable. We see it every time we go in and do an assessment. There's another $1 million just floating around. Yeah. So let's say we get it from 4 to 5, but let's say now that over the 2 years we've prepared the company to make sure we can maximize that multiple. It's 5 times 10. So you're going from 24 million to 50 million in a 2-year period. You're not going to make that up in growth. That's just the same type of business, getting it ready versus not getting it ready. Yeah. And so we work with a lot of different partners. We always talk about our partner network because we're always looking for people that can help create that over a 2-year period. Yeah. And it's across everything. It's insurance, it's commercial banking, it's your CPA, it's your tax firm. It can be anywhere.
You're almost like the doctor of finance.
There you go.
Your patients need to come to you.
Right.
And sometimes they don't want to come to you because you might expose things that they should work on. Yeah. But that's the same with our health. You go to your doctor to uncover things that you might need to improve upon, and then when you do, you're healthier. Well, you're the doctor of finance.
It's a great one.
You're creating
we get calls from people when they're in the emergency room if they think about it that way.
We might want to set you up with some scrubs.
LOI in hand already. Yeah.
So you have some nice scrubs for your next website picture.
Yep.
Keeping some of the detail out of it for obvious reasons, but are there any cases you can share where the transactions went terrible, maybe didn't take place, and then the transactions went beautifully? and what were the main differences?
I've seen several where the buyer has tried to retrade in the middle of due diligence. And there's some buyers out there that are known for doing that, private equity firms, where they generally try to find something through due diligence and then they retrade. So think of it as like talked about the housing analogy. It's somebody who loves to, try and get a house at a steal, and then during inspection pull you need a new roof, and I want $100,000 off the top. There's a lot of folks that will do that, and I've seen that happen, and then the CEO really get their back up and say, "Screw you, I'm out," and the whole thing fall apart.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
What are some of the controllables? I love that word. I preach that to my son in sports right now. You can control so
things,
much. Yeah.
right.
What are some of the controllables in your line of work?
Yeah, I mean, the simplest thing is if you have the right person on the team. First, you got to make sure you have the right person from a finance perspective on your team. If you hold them accountable and say, "I need my close done in 5 business days, and I need it to be accurate, and I need it to be accrual based, and we're going to have financial statement reviews or audit financials at the end of the year," you can absolutely control that. Mm-hmm. There's tons of people out there can do that, and it's not necessarily our firm. Your accounting firm can come in and help you do that. But there's also things with control the controllables is you have to invest in your finance function. And so one of the things that we always talk to the founders about is we're only successful if we work ourselves out of a job. And what that means is you need to have this team in-house because this is something you can control, and you have to actually own the finance function. There's other firms out there that want you to do fractional models and outsource forever, and we don't think that's the right model. We think you've got to get it in-house and build it. But there's so much you can control.
It's interesting, though. I think one of the things that I'm taking away also is, this is clearly an investment in the business.
Right.
Whatever the business is, a business might say we're going to spend $1 to buy a new piece of equipment because we buy that new piece of equipment, it can generate more sales
right.
mean more revenue. But when they invest $1 into you and your company, mm-hmm. they can generate extra value in the company,
right.
which in effect is like bottom line profit.
It is, yeah. And it also, I mean, the hidden thing is every company is doing a form of this, whether they're doing it well or not. Like, especially when we get into strategic planning and financial planning analysis, which means that if you don't have a good CFO in there, it's generally the CEO who's doing it. And the CEO should be growing the company and outselling the company. They shouldn't be worried about some of this back office stuff. When I meet a CEO, and I meet them all the time, where they're like, I'm sick about like my cash. I don't have good cash visibility, or my close isn't happening on time. I used to be able to run my own reports. I can't see it anymore. I'm a $25 million business. I'm afraid we're not going to be able to make payroll. And I'm like, this is the stuff you should not worry about. Yeah. This is basic blocking and tackling. You've just gotten your point. You've almost been a victim of your success because at 10 million you could hold everything together, and now 25 million you can't.
You brought up a good point, and we don't have to keep this in, but I'm curious, how does your team, how are they compensated? Is it on project based on the size of the business? Are you paid only if the business is sold, or how does?
That's a great question. We're all hourly. The way to think about it is, we model our model is based off of just like so a company needs a strategic team of advisors when they go to sell their company. One of them is like an M&A attorney. Mm-hmm. An M&A attorney is paid hourly. They're not paid on the value that they generate. That's exactly the way we're designed.
So same as billable hours as an attorney's,
Where an investment banker is paid on 3% of the sale or whatever. Okay. But they're incentivized to sell the company. Like we don't care if they sell the company or not. We're there to help them build a world-class finance function that will allow them one day, if we go through the wealth manager, will allow them one day to actually realize this value. If that's what their ultimate strategic goal is.
Yeah, you might get brought in by a company for a project and get a year in or a couple months in and say, you know what, let's tap the brakes here. The timing's not right.
Right.
You might want to push out a couple years now. Yeah. Let's continue. I know we use that 2-year example, but maybe if you do this, that, and the other thing, the value goes up. So keep us on board. Mm-hmm. Let us help continue to grow the value of the company. But timing right now is not
exactly
not appropriate.
Yeah. And we have, and I mentioned the investment bankers. We have some though, even though they're compensated on that percentage, where they want to sell the company, they're very strategically oriented, and they will slow down and do that every time. I love working with those kinds of investment bankers. Yeah. It's hard to find because they're like the realtor back to the house.
Yeah, they want to close.
Yeah, they're incentivized on selling the house.
Yeah, get it done.
Take a step back sometimes. I mean, this is you take a founder, let's just say, like a trade, like an HVAC guy who's got a $25 million business. This is going to be his one transaction. That's it. Unless he sells to private equity, maybe he gets to double dip. But he's got one chance to sell it. He might as well maximize everything and put it all in his pocket.
And even if that transaction doesn't take place, not for that case particularly, but going through that process is invaluable.
It's invaluable. Yeah. We see simple things like, and again, basic blocking and tackling, because you can do this when you're a small company, is really being on top of your cash.
Yeah.
Working capital management. You should have a cash flow forecast from your team every week. And it blows my mind how many companies we meet that they're not getting that, which means they're not pulling the right levers, which means they're paying people on receipt and they're not on top of their collections, what's that mean? At the end of the year, you've pushed cash out of the year that you could have had in your pocket.
Let's close with Maximus. How'd you come up with the name?
It's a good one. My partners, John and Jamie, came up with it.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of John's old company was Fidato Partners. Fidato is more on that Maximus thing. John's favorite movie.
Gladiator?
It was Gladiator. Yeah.
No way. I was thinking that, but I was like, it can't be associated with that.
all
And
related.
it really
It's all
is. That true?
Yeah, it's all true.
Oh, that's great.
And great name.
Yeah.
Strong, powerful.
Maximus
name.
Aurelius. Yeah.
And it goes
that's
with,
cool.
we're maximizing the value of these companies. So it all plays together. I think it's pretty cool.
Makes total sense. Rich, is there anything we missed that you want to add?
No,
We're coming up on
I'm
30
I'm
minutes.
just glad you guys had me out. I think you guys add something very strategic for these companies that they need to think about.
Yeah. We appreciate that.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for your participation. We'll talk soon.
All right, thanks.
Bye. Goodbye.
The material and opinions voiced are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine what is appropriate for you, please contact a member of our team.